They held a funeral for my future when I was 22. I'm not being dramatic. They literally threw a dinner party and called it a wake. Black tablecloth, wilted lilies, the whole 9 yards. My mother Helen stood at the head of our mahogany dining table, raised her wine glass, and delivered a eulogy for the daughter who died the day I chose social work over law school. My name is Trinity, and that night 10 years ago was the last time I sat at that table. To Trinity's wasted potential, Helen had said, her voice carrying that particular brand of disappointment she'd perfected over the years. May it rest in peace, alongside her trust fund. My father Hugh nodded solemnly from his chair, cutting into his steak like he was dissecting my life choices. My younger sister Lexis, golden child, business prodigy, everything I apparently wasn't, actually giggled behind her napkin. "Come on, Mom," Lexis had said, her eyes sparkling with that cruel amusement she wore so well. "Trinity's just going through a phase. She'll come crawling back when she realizes she can't survive on good intentions and food stamps." I should have walked out then. Instead, I sat there like an idiot, watching my family perform this twisted theater while my heart shattered into pieces small enough to fit through the cracks in their marble floors. "The position at Morrison & Associates is still available," Hugh had said, not even looking at me. "One phone call, Trinity. That's all it takes to resurrect your future." "I don't want to be a corporate lawyer." The words came out quieter than I'd intended, but they might as well have been screams for how the room went silent. Helen set down her glass with surgical precision. "What you want is irrelevant. What matters is what's practical, what pays, what maintains the family reputation. I want to help people." "You can help people by making enough money to write checks to charity," Lexis chimed in, twirling her fork like she was conducting an orchestra of my failures. "But I guess that requires actual intelligence." That's when I stood up. That's when I told them exactly what I thought of their money, their reputation, and their twisted version of love. That's when Hugh's face turned purple and Helen's mask finally slipped, revealing the ice-cold calculation underneath. "If you walk out that door," Helen had said, her voice steady as a surgeon's hand, "don't expect to walk back in. We won't enable your delusions." I walked out anyway. For 10 years, I kept walking. Through a studio apartment with paper-thin walls and a radiator that sounded like a dying animal. Through graduate school funded by loans that'll follow me to my grave. Through a job that pays barely enough to survive but fills something in my soul that their money never could. I walked through cancer at 28, alone, because when I called them from the hospital, Helen hung up after hearing the word chemotherapy. Apparently, my illness was just another manipulation tactic in her mind. Ruby, my best friend, and the closest thing to family I have now, held my hand through every treatment. She was there when I lost my hair, when I couldn't keep food down, when I thought I might actually die in that sterile hospital room with no one but the nurses to mourn me. My biological family? Radio silence. Until yesterday. I was sitting in my tiny kitchen, grading case files over instant ramen, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check the news. Karma's finally called them home." The headline made my blood freeze. Hart Industries collapses after massive fraud investigation. Family fortune lost. There was Hugh's photo, older, grayer, but still wearing that same arrogant expression I remembered. The article detailed how Lexis, their precious golden child, had apparently been cooking the books for years. Embezzlement, tax evasion, investor fraud. She'd hit the white-collar crime trifecta. The Hart family empire, built over 3 generations, was gone. Bankruptcy, federal investigation, assets seized. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt that sweet satisfaction of watching karma serve justice on a silver platter. Instead, I just felt empty. Until this morning, when someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find 2 strangers wearing my parents' faces, hollow-eyed, desperate, and smaller somehow than I remembered. Helen's perfect posture had crumbled, and Hugh's commanding presence had withered into something that looked almost human. "Trinity," Helen whispered, and for the first time in my life, I heard her voice crack. "We need to talk." They stood in my doorway like ghosts of their former selves. Helen's designer clothes hung loose on her frame, and Hugh's hands shook as he gripped a worn leather briefcase that probably contained everything they had left. "May we come in?" Helen asked, the words foreign in her mouth. I'd never heard her ask permission for anything. I stepped aside without a word. They shuffled into my cramped living room, taking in the second-hand furniture and peeling paint with the kind of horror usually reserved for crime scenes. "Cozy," Hugh muttered, lowering himself onto my thrift store couch like it might collapse under him. "Coffee?" I asked, more out of shock than hospitality. "Please." Helen perched on the edge of my armchair, spine straight despite everything. Some habits die hard. I busied myself in the kitchen, hands trembling as I scooped grounds into the filter. Through the thin wall, I could hear them whispering. "This is humiliating," Hugh hissed. "We don't have a choice," Helen shot back. "She's the only one who—" "Who what?" I called out, returning with 3 mismatched mugs. "Who hasn't stolen from you? Who hasn't destroyed your life? Who you haven't spoken to in a decade?" Helen flinched. Hugh stared into his coffee like it held answers. "We made mistakes," Helen said finally. "Mistakes?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "You held a funeral for me. You hung up on me when I had cancer. You thought I was lying. You thought I was manipulating you for money." I sat across from them, studying these strangers who used to be my parents. "What changed? Why now?" Hugh cleared his throat. "The federal investigators froze everything. The house, the cars, the accounts. We're staying in a motel off Route 9. The image hit me like a slap. My parents, who used to vacation in the Hamptons and shop on Fifth Avenue, reduced to a roadside motel with cigarette burns in the carpet and ice machines that never worked. "Where's Lexus?" I asked. Helen's face hardened. "We don't know. She disappeared the night before the FBI raid, took what cash she could, and vanished." "Your golden child abandoned you?" I couldn't keep the bitter satisfaction out of my voice. "She's scared," Hugh said defensively. "She made some poor decisions, but—" "Poor decisions?" I laughed, harsh and ugly. "She embezzled millions. She destroyed your company. She ruined your lives." "She's still our daughter," Helen whispered. The words hung in the air like smoke. Still their daughter. Unlike me, apparently. "What do you want?" I asked. Helen and Hugh exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them, the kind that comes from 30 years of marriage. "We heard you work in social services now," Hugh said carefully, "that you have connections with housing programs, assistance programs. You want me to help you get welfare." The irony was so thick I could taste it. "It's temporary," Helen said quickly. "Just until we can figure out our next steps. We're not asking for money. Good, because I don't have any. Just guidance, someone who knows the system." I stared at them, these proud people who'd rather die than accept charity, now begging their disowned daughter to help them navigate the very programs they'd probably voted to defund. "You know what's funny?" I said. "When I was sick, when I was broke, when I was sleeping on Ruby's couch because I couldn't make rent, I would have given anything for you to care, for you to call, for you to show up." Helen's eyes filled with tears, real ones, not the crocodile variety she used to deploy at charity galas. "We were wrong," she said. "We were so wrong about everything." "Were you? Or are you just desperate?" Before either could answer, my phone rang. Lexus's name flashed on the screen. I answered without thinking. "Hello?" "Trinity." Lexus's voice was breathless, panicked. "Are they there? Did they find you?" "They're sitting right here." Silence. Then, "Don't help them." Hugh leaned forward. "Is that Lexus? Let me talk to her." I held up a hand, keeping the phone pressed to my ear. "Trinity, listen to me," Lexus continued. "Whatever they told you, it's not the whole truth. There are things you don't know, things they did that— What things? I can't say over the phone, but please, whatever you do, don't trust them. Don't help them. They don't deserve it. The line went dead. Helen and Hugh stared at me expectantly. What did she say? Helen asked. I looked at my parents, broken, desperate, finally vulnerable, and felt something cold settle in my chest. She said she's sorry, I lied. After my parents left, promising to call tomorrow for my answer, I sat staring at my phone for 20 minutes before dialing Ruby. They showed up, I said when she answered. Who showed up? My parents, at my door, begging for help. Ruby was quiet for a moment. Jesus, how do you feel? Like I'm having an out-of-body experience. They want me to help them get into housing assistance programs. And I'm thinking about it. Trinity, I know what you're going to say. Do you? Because I'm not sure you do. Ruby's voice carried that gentle firmness she used with her therapy clients. What exactly are you thinking about? Helping them or hurting them? I didn't answer. Come over, she said. We need to talk face to face. An hour later, I was sitting in Ruby's kitchen while she made her famous stress relief tea, which was really just chamomile with honey, but she insisted the ritual mattered. Tell me about Lexus's call, she said, settling across from me. She warned me not to trust them, said there were things I didn't know. What kind of things? She wouldn't say over the phone. Ruby stirred her tea thoughtfully. You know, when we were kids, my grandmother used to tell me about karma. She said it wasn't about revenge, it was about balance, the universe correcting itself. Your point? My point is that maybe the universe already corrected itself. Your parents lost everything. Your sister destroyed their lives and abandoned them. Maybe that's enough. I pulled out my laptop. I need to understand what really happened. The news articles were vague. For the next hour, we dug through financial reports, court documents, and news coverage. The picture that emerged was uglier than I'd imagined. Lexus hadn't just embezzled money, she'd systematically looted the company over 5 years. Fake vendors, inflated contracts, diverted funds. She'd stolen from employee pension funds, charity donations, even the college scholarship program my grandfather had established. Look at this, Ruby said, pointing to a document on her screen. She took money from the Children's Hospital Fund, the one your family donated to every year. My stomach turned. She stole from sick kids. Gets worse. See this transaction from 3 months ago? Ruby clicked on another file. She cleaned out what was left of the emergency fund right before the investigation started. She knew it was coming. She left them with nothing. The words came out flat, emotionless. Trinity, there's something else. Ruby's voice was careful. Look at the dates on these transactions. I leaned closer. The largest thefts had occurred over the past 2 years, including several during the months I was in treatment. She was stealing while I was dying, I whispered, while your parents were refusing to help you with medical bills because they claimed money was tight. The room went silent except for the hum of Ruby's refrigerator. They had money, I said slowly. They just didn't know Lexus was taking it. Or they did know and chose to blame you instead of facing the truth about their golden child. My phone buzzed, text message from an unknown number. We need to meet. There's more you need to know about what really happened. I showed Ruby the screen. Don't, she said immediately. Whatever game she's playing, don't get involved. What if she's telling the truth? What if there's more to this? Then let the FBI figure it out. Your job isn't to solve your family's problems. But I was already typing back. Where? The response came immediately. Riverside Park, bench by the duck pond, 1 hour, come alone. Ruby grabbed my wrist. Trinity, listen to me. You're not thinking clearly. You're angry and you want revenge, and I get it. But this isn't the way. What way? I haven't decided anything yet. Haven't you? You're already planning something. I can see it in your eyes. She was right. Sitting in that kitchen, surrounded by evidence of my family's destruction, something cold and calculating had awakened in my chest. For 10 years, I'd been the victim, the abandoned daughter, the sick girl with no family. But now I had power. They needed me. What if I helped them? I said quietly. That would be the bigger person thing to do. What if I helped them into the worst possible situation? What if I made sure they experienced exactly what I went through? The humiliation, the desperation, the complete loss of dignity. Ruby set down her mug with a sharp clink. That's not help. That's revenge. Maybe they're the same thing. Trinity. They held a funeral for me, Ruby. They celebrated my failure. They abandoned me when I was dying. My voice was rising. And now they want me to save them? After everything? So you're going to become them? You're going to be just as cruel? I'm going to give them exactly what they gave me. Nothing. Ruby stood up. Then you're not the person I thought you were. Her words hit like a slap, but I was already reaching for my jacket. I have to go meet Lexus. Don't do this. I paused at her door. Do what? Find out the truth? Use that truth to hurt people who are already broken. I left without answering, but her words followed me into the night. Lexus was already at the bench when I arrived, hunched over her phone like she was trying to disappear into it. She looked terrible. Designer clothes wrinkled, hair unwashed, dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. You came, she said without looking up. You said there was more I needed to know. She finally raised her head. Up close, she looked older than her 29 years. Sit down. I remained standing. Talk. They're not innocent victims, Trinity. Mom and Dad knew what I was doing. Bullshit. I'm serious. She pulled out a tablet, swiped to a folder labeled Insurance. Look at these. Email threads filled the screen. Messages between Lexus and our parents dating back 3 years. My blood went cold as I read. From Hugh. The quarterly reports look suspicious. Are you sure the numbers are accurate? From Lexus. Everything's fine, Dad. Trust me. From Helen. The auditors are asking questions about the charity fund transfers. From Lexus. I'll handle it. Just keep them busy with other projects. They knew, Lexus said quietly. Maybe not the full extent, but they knew something was wrong, and they let me handle it because the money kept coming in. I scrolled through more messages, my hands shaking. This doesn't prove they knew you were stealing. Keep reading. The emails got more explicit. References to creative accounting and flexible interpretations of financial regulations. Hugh asking Lexus to make the numbers work for investor meetings. Helen suggesting they postpone the audit until after the holidays. They were complicit, Lexus said. Not masterminds, but they turned a blind eye because business was good. Why are you showing me this? Because they're going to blame everything on me. They already are. And when you help them... Who says I'm helping them? Lexus laughed bitterly. Please, you're Trinity. You help everyone. It's your thing. My thing? The savior complex. The need to fix broken people. It's why you became a social worker instead of making real money. The old sting of her condescension hit me, but I pushed it aside. If they knew what you were doing, why didn't they stop you? Because stopping me meant admitting they'd been living off stolen money for years. Their house, their cars, their lifestyle, all funded by my creative solutions. She closed the tablet. They chose willful ignorance. And you chose to steal from sick children. Her face crumpled. I know how bad it looks. But it started small, just moving money around to cover cash flow problems. Then it got bigger, and I couldn't stop without exposing everything. So, you kept stealing? I kept trying to fix it. Every theft was supposed to be the last one, just enough to buy time to make things right. until you cleaned out the emergency fund and ran. I panicked, okay? The FBI was closing in, and I knew if I stayed, I'd drag everyone down with me. I stared at her, this woman who used to be my sister. You left them to face the consequences alone. I saved them from criminal charges. If I'd stayed, they would have been arrested too. How noble of you. Trinity, I'm trying to make this right. I have money hidden. Not much, but enough to help them get back on their feet. But I need your help to get it to them without the feds tracing it. You want me to help you launder money. I want you to help me take care of our parents. Our parents? The words came out like acid. They're not my parents. They made that clear 10 years ago. They made a mistake. They held a funeral for me, and I laughed, Lexus shouted back. I sat there and laughed while they destroyed you, and I've regretted it every day since. The admission hung between us like a physical thing. You think saying sorry fixes it? I asked. No, but maybe helping them does. Maybe this is our chance to be better than they were. I looked at her, really looked. The desperation in her eyes was real. The guilt was real. But so was the manipulation, the same calculated charm she'd used our whole lives. There's something else, she said quietly, about when you were sick. My blood froze. What about it? Dad wanted to help. He called the hospital, tried to pay your bills. Mom stopped him. You're lying. I have the phone records. He called you 17 times during your treatment. Mom made him hang up every time. The world tilted. Why? She said if they helped you, it would prove you were right to defy them, that you'd never come home if they enabled your rebellion. I sat down hard on the bench, my legs suddenly unable to support me. She chose pride over your life, Lexus whispered, and I let her. I called my parents the next morning before I could change my mind. I'll help you, I said when Helen answered. The relief in her voice was immediate. Oh, Trinity, thank you. We knew you'd... I have conditions. Silence. What kind of conditions? Hugh's voice came through the speaker. They'd put me on conference call. You do exactly what I say when I say it. No questions, no arguments. You've lost the right to make demands. That seems reasonable, Helen said carefully. I've arranged placement in a transitional housing program. It's specifically designed for people in your situation, professionals who've experienced sudden financial hardship. That sounds perfect, Hugh said. When can we? Today. I'll pick you up at your motel at noon. After I hung up, I sat in my car outside the Riverside Motel, watching my parents emerge from room 237 with 2 small suitcases. Everything they owned in the world, reduced to what they could carry. Helen had tried to maintain some dignity. Her hair was styled, her clothes pressed. But Hugh looked broken. His shoulders sagged as he loaded their bags into my trunk. Thank you for this, Helen said as she settled into the passenger seat. We know this isn't easy for you. No, it's not. Hugh climbed into the back. Where exactly is this facility? Downtown. It's called New Horizons. I've heard of it, Helen said. Don't they help homeless people? Among others. The drive across town was tense. My parents kept trying to make conversation, asking about my work, my apartment, anything to fill the silence. I gave short answers, focused on the road. Trinity, Hugh said as we stopped at a red light, I need to tell you something. What? When you were sick, I wanted to help. I tried to call you. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Did you? Your mother thought it was best if we maintained boundaries. She said if we helped you, you'd never learn to stand on your own. Helen's head snapped toward him. Hugh? She needs to know, he said firmly. I called the hospital. I spoke to your doctor. I wanted to pay your bills, but Helen said... I said we needed to be consistent, Helen interrupted. We'd made a decision as a family. You made a decision, Hugh shot back. I wanted to be there for her. And undermine everything we'd worked for. Show her that defying us had no consequences? She had cancer, Helen! The car behind us honked. The light had turned green. I drove in silence while my parents argued in the background, their voices becoming white noise as Lexus's revelation played on repeat in my head. He'd tried to help. He'd wanted to be there. Stop, I said quietly. They kept arguing. Stop! I pulled over to the curb and turned around. Just stop talking. Hugh's face was flushed. Helen looked like she'd been slapped. Dad, I said, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. Is it true? You tried to call me? He nodded. 17 times. I hung up every time because your mother said, because I was trying to protect this family, Helen said. Someone had to be the adult. The adult? I laughed, harsh and bitter. The adult would have put their child's life before their pride. We thought you were manipulating us, using your illness to what? Get attention? Get money? I turned back around, gripping the steering wheel. I was dying, Mom. I was 28 years old and dying, and you thought I was playing games. We made mistakes, Hugh said quietly. You made choices. There's a difference. I pulled back into traffic. The rest of the drive passed in silence. New Horizons sat on a busy street downtown, a converted warehouse with small windows and a faded sign. It wasn't the worst place in the city, but it wasn't the upscale facility my parents were expecting. This is it? Helen asked as we parked. This is it. Colby met us at the entrance. He'd been a family friend once, back when my parents moved in different circles. Now he managed intake at the shelter. Helen, Hugh, he said with professional courtesy. Trinity told me about your situation. We'll take good care of you. Colby? Helen's voice was small. You work here? 5 years now. Lost my practice in the recession. Ended up here. Funny how life works out. Hugh stared at the building like it might collapse on him. How long is the program? Depends on your progress. Some people find permanent housing in a few weeks. Others... Colby shrugged. Others take longer. What exactly does the program involve? Helen asked. Shared living spaces, communal meals, job placement assistance. You'll have roommates, chores, curfew. House rules are non-negotiable. My parents exchanged glances. Roommates? Hugh asked. Most of our residents are in similar situations, professionals who've hit hard times. You'll fit right in. I watched my parents absorb this information, the reality of their new life settling over them like a heavy blanket. Trinity, Helen said, turning to me, will you visit? I looked at her, this woman who'd chosen pride over love, who'd held a funeral for my dreams and let me suffer alone. We'll see, I said. I visited them the following Tuesday. Colby met me at the front desk, shaking his head. Your mother asked to speak to the manager 3 times yesterday, he said. She wants to know why the Wi-Fi password changes daily and why she can't have food delivered to her room. How's my father handling it? Better, actually. He's been helping in the kitchen. Quiet, but he shows up. I found them in the common area. Helen sat rigid on a worn couch, staring at a TV showing daytime talk shows. Hugh was across the room playing chess with a man I didn't recognize. Trinity! Helen stood immediately. Thank goodness you're here. We need to discuss alternative arrangements. What kind of alternatives? This place isn't suitable. The people here... She lowered her voice. Some of them have substance abuse problems, mental health issues. It's not safe. It's perfectly safe, Mom. These are people who've fallen on hard times, just like you. We're not like them. Aren't you? Hugh approached us, leaving his chess partner mid-game. Trinity, we appreciate what you've done, but surely there are other options. Private facilities, perhaps? With what money? The question hung in the air. Hugh's face reddened. Your mother and I have been discussing our situation, he said. We think it might be time to reach out to Lexus, work together to rebuild. Lexus is a federal fugitive. She's our daughter, Helen said firmly, and she has resources that could help us get back on our feet. Resources she stole. That's between her and the authorities. I stared at them, amazed. Even now, even after everything, they were choosing Lexus over accountability. She called me yesterday, Hugh said quietly. What? Lexus. She wants to meet with us. She says she has a plan to make things right. You're not seriously considering... She's family, Trinity. Whatever she's done wrong, she's still our daughter. And what am I? The question came out sharper than I intended. Hugh flinched. You're our daughter too, Helen said carefully. That's why we came to you for help. After 10 years of silence, we've apologized for that. Have you? When? I don't remember hearing the words. I'm sorry. Helen's mouth opened and closed. Hugh looked at his shoes. We need to go, Helen said finally. Lexus is waiting. Go where? She's staying at a hotel across town, just for a few hours. You'll violate your housing agreement. Colby will kick you out. We'll be back before curfew, Hugh said. No one needs to know. I watched them gather their coats, these people who'd learned nothing from their fall. They were still choosing the easy path, still believing Lexus could fix everything with her schemes and stolen money. Don't do this, I said. We have to, Helen replied. She's our only hope. They left me standing in the common area, surrounded by the very people they thought themselves too good for. Family troubles? I turned. The man Hugh had been playing chess with extended his hand. Marcus, he said, I'm in room 4B, next to your parents. How are they as neighbors? Your mother's particular. Asked me to keep my music down at 7 p.m. I wasn't playing any music. Despite everything, I smiled. That sounds like her. Your father's different. Helped me move my dresser yesterday. Didn't say much, but he showed up. We sat down at the chessboard. Marcus reset the pieces. You know, he said, I used to be a financial advisor. Lost everything in a Ponzi scheme. Not running it, investing in it. Thought I was smarter than everyone else. What happened? Pride, mostly. Refused help from family because I was embarrassed. Ended up here. He moved a pawn. Best thing that ever happened to me. How's that? Learned who I really was when I had nothing left to hide behind. Turns out I'm not as smart as I thought, but I'm tougher than I knew. I moved my own pawn. My parents don't seem to be learning that lesson. Give them time. Rock bottom looks different for everyone. We played in comfortable silence for a while. Around us, the shelter hummed with quiet activity, people reading, watching TV, having conversations. It wasn't the hellscape my parents imagined. It was just life, stripped of pretense. My phone buzzed. Text from Lexus. Thanks for not stopping them. We're going to fix this together. I showed Marcus the message. Your sister? He asked. Unfortunately. She sounds like trouble. She is. And your parents are walking right into it. I nodded, watching the chessboard blur. As my eyes filled with tears I refused to shed. You could warn them, Marcus said gently. I could, but you're not going to. No, I said, moving my queen into position. I'm not. Sometimes, Marcus said, studying the board, the only way people learn is by making their own mistakes. Even if those mistakes destroy them, especially then. He moved his king, walking directly into my trap. Checkmate, I whispered. They didn't come back that night. Colby called me at 6 a.m. Your parents never returned. They violated their housing agreement. What does that mean? It means they're out. I held their beds as long as I could, but we have a waiting list. I drove to the hotel Lexus had mentioned, my stomach churning with each mile. The Riverside Inn was the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour, with flickering neon signs and parking lots full of broken dreams. I found them in the lobby, all three of them. Helen sat in a cracked vinyl chair, staring at nothing. Hugh paced by the window. Lexus stood at the front desk, arguing with the clerk. The card was declined again, the clerk was saying. You need to pay cash or leave. There's been a mistake, Lexus insisted. Try running it one more time. I've run it 6 times, lady. It's maxed out. I approached slowly. Having trouble? Lexus spun around. Trinity, thank God. Can you cover the room for another night? Just until I sort out this banking issue. What banking issue? The accounts I set up got frozen. Temporary setback. You mean the FBI found your hidden money? Her face went pale. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I looked at my parents. How long have you been here? 2 days, Hugh said quietly. Lexus said she had everything arranged, but her stolen money got confiscated and now you're homeless. We're not homeless, Helen said sharply. This is temporary. Is it? Because Colby kicked you out of the shelter. You have nowhere to go. We have each other, Lexus said desperately. We can figure this out as a family. Family? The word came out like a curse. You destroyed them, Lexus. You stole their money, ruined their reputation, and now you've gotten them kicked out of the one place that would help them. I was trying to fix things. By dragging them into another one of your schemes? The hotel clerk cleared his throat. Ladies, you need to settle your bill or I'm calling security. I pulled out my credit card. 1 night. That's it. Trinity, you don't have to. Hugh started. No, I do. Because despite everything you've done to me, I'm not going to let you sleep on the street. I paid for the room and followed them upstairs. The space was tiny, with 2 double beds and a bathroom that had seen better decades. We need to talk, I said, closing the door behind us. Trinity, we can explain, Helen began. Sit down, all of you. They sat on one bed. I remained standing. Lexus, show them the emails. What emails? Hugh asked. The ones where you and Mom knew she was stealing and chose to look the other way. That's not, Helen started. Show them, I repeated. Lexus reluctantly pulled out her tablet. My parents read in silence, their faces growing paler with each message. We didn't know the extent, Hugh said finally. You knew enough. You knew she was manipulating numbers, hiding transactions, lying to auditors, and you let her because the money kept coming. We trusted her judgment, Helen whispered. You trusted her because she was making you rich, just like you trusted her when she told you I was manipulating you during my cancer treatment. What? Hugh looked confused. Oh, you didn't tell them that part? I looked at Lexus. How you convinced them I was faking my illness for attention. How you made sure they never visited, never called, never helped. Trinity, that's not... I have the phone records, Lexus. Dad called me 17 times. You and Mom made him hang up every time. Hugh turned to stare at his wife. Helen? We thought it was best to maintain boundaries. She was dying. She was being dramatic. She always was dramatic when she didn't get her way. The room exploded. Hugh shouted at Helen. Helen screamed back. Lexus tried to mediate while simultaneously defending herself. I watched them tear each other apart, these people who'd once been my family. The golden child revealed as a thief, the perfect mother exposed as cruel, the distant father finally showing emotion, 10 years too late. Stop, I said quietly. They kept yelling. Stop! The room went silent. You want to know the truth? I said. All of you are exactly who you've always been. Selfish, cruel, and willing to sacrifice anyone for your own comfort. The only difference is now you have nothing left to hide behind. Trinity, Hugh reached for me. Don't. I'm done. I helped you because I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd learned something from losing everything. But you haven't. You're still the same people who held a funeral for my dreams and abandoned me when I needed you most. I headed for the door. Where are you going? Helen called. Home, to my real family, the people who were there when you weren't. We need you, Lexus said desperately. I turned back one last time. You had me? For 22 years, you had me? And you threw me away like garbage. Please, Hugh whispered. Don't leave us like this. Like what? Alone? Desperate? With nowhere to turn? I smiled, cold and sharp. Welcome to my world 10 years ago. Enjoy your stay. I walked out and didn't look back. Ruby was waiting on my couch when I got home, a bottle of wine and 2 glasses on my coffee table. Colby called me, she said. Figured you might need this. I collapsed beside her. They learned nothing. Absolutely nothing. What did you expect? I don't know. Maybe that losing everything would humble them. Maybe that being abandoned would make them understand what they did to me. Ruby poured wine into both glasses. And instead, they're still choosing Lexus, still believing her lies, still thinking they're better than everyone else. So what now? I took a long sip. Now I'm done, really done. No more visits, no more help, no more chances. How does that feel? Empty. I thought revenge would feel better. Was it revenge or was it justice? I considered this. What's the difference? Revenge is about hurting people who hurt you. Justice is about consequences catching up with choices. Then I guess it was justice. We sat in comfortable silence, drinking wine and watching the sun set through my small window. My phone rang. Unknown number. Don't answer it, Ruby said. I answered anyway. Hello? Trinity? The voice was barely a whisper. It's Mom. What do you want, Helen? We're at the bus station. Lexus is gone. She took the last of our money and disappeared. I said nothing. We don't have anywhere to go. That's not my problem. Please, I know we don't deserve your help, but... You're right. You don't deserve it. Trinity, wait. Don't hang up. Something in her voice made me pause. I need to tell you something, she continued, about when you were sick. I already know. Dad tried to help. You stopped him. That's not all of it. Her voice cracked. I was scared. Scared of what? Of losing you. Of admitting we were wrong. If we helped you, it meant everything we'd said and done was cruel and pointless. It meant we destroyed our relationship with our daughter for nothing. Ruby was watching me intently. So you chose to let me suffer alone rather than admit you made a mistake? Yes. The word came out like a sob, and I've regretted it every day since. Regret doesn't fix anything, Helen. I know, but I need you to know that I was wrong about everything, your career, your choices, your illness. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. The words I'd waited 10 years to hear, and they felt like dust in my mouth. Where's Dad? Right here. Do you want to talk to him? No. I want you both to listen. You're going to go back to New Horizons. You're going to apologize to Colby for violating your agreement. You're going to follow every rule, do every chore, and treat every person there with respect. Trinity, I'm not finished. You're going to get jobs, any jobs. You're going to rebuild your lives from the ground up, without shortcuts, without schemes, without expecting anyone to save you. And if we do all that, then maybe someday we can have a conversation about what family actually means. Will you visit us? I looked at Ruby, who nodded encouragingly. Once a month, for 1 hour. And if you mention Lexus or ask me for anything other than conversation, I'm gone. That's fair. It's more than fair. It's generous. Trinity? Hugh's voice came through the phone now. I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of the person you became despite us, not because of us. My throat tightened. I have to go. We love you, Helen said quickly. We always loved you. We just didn't know how to show it. I hung up without responding. Ruby refilled my wine glass. So they're going back to the shelter. They're going to do the work, and maybe eventually we'll figure out if there's anything left to salvage. And Lexus? Lexus made her choice. She's on her own. How do you feel about that? I considered the question. Like I finally understand the difference between justice and revenge. Justice is letting people face the consequences of their choices. Revenge is making sure those consequences destroy them. And which did you choose? Justice. Barely. Ruby raised her glass. To justice, then, and to second chances. To second chances, I agreed. The ones we earn, not the ones we expect. We clinked glasses as my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for opening my eyes. I'm going to do better. Mom. I showed Ruby the message. Think she means it? She asked. I think she's going to have to prove it. And if she does? I looked around my small apartment, at the secondhand furniture, the peeling paint, the life I'd built from nothing after they threw me away. Then maybe we'll find out what family looks like when it's built on truth instead of expectations. Outside my window, the city hummed with life. Somewhere out there, my parents were learning what it meant to start over. Somewhere else, Lexus was running from consequences that would eventually catch up. And here, in my tiny apartment with my chosen family, I was finally free.